It's Wednesday, October 25. I'm Ben Reeve, and this is your midweek wrap on The Hoop Show. On today's show, Bailey Smith almost certain to depart the Dogs at the end of 2024. Plus, Melbourne player Joel Smith could be looking at a lengthy suspension after failing a drugs test. And Hawthorn could be looking at a payout in excess of $1 million to Alistair Clarkson and Chris Fagan. G'day everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's the off-season, but there's plenty to talk about on the show. Where should we start? I think we probably should start with the Bailey Smith stuff that just won't go away. Now, John Ralph from the Herald Sun and various other outlets is reporting that there's an 80% chance that Bailey Smith will be leaving the Dogs at the end of 2024. He's uncontracted. He's 22 years of age, played probably, I think, about 103 games, according to my notes here and AFLtables.com. Thank you very much. But it's been reported that he's been unhappy for quite some time. He's not getting much midfield time for the Dogs. There's a couple of other clubs, well, 4 other clubs that are reporting at the moment that are interested in his services beyond next season. Geelong being the one that was where all the rumours were started pretty early there. But you've got Hawthorn who put their hand up. Seems like they're putting their hand up for everyone at the moment. And then now you've got Collingwood and Essendon as well. So who knows where it'll end up. Thankfully, Cotton On are involved in sponsoring Bailey Smith. Hopefully that may continue for the long term. That'd be great if it can. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think about Bailey Smith? We all know that he's had some issues off the field. Some mental health hasn't been great. But I think he'd be fantastic for the Catters. I think he's that perfect age profile, 22 years of age. There's a couple of other guys that, you know, in our side that are around that. Well, we're trying to add to that group of players anyway. You've got your Patrick Dangerfields and your Cam Guthrie's all finishing up probably in the next, I shouldn't retire him, but probably, let's say in the next 5 years. That's probably earlier than that, much earlier than that, I'm guessing, but 1 to 2 is more realistic. So we're going to need to bring in another generation of players. You know, Tanner Bruin's a young fella. He's developing as well. And there's a bunch of others. But the more we can add to that sort of those guys in the mid-20s, and they're hard to get. They're hard to pry away from clubs, especially when they're absolute stars. He was a former number 7 pick in the draft, and he has been in a grand final and absolutely has dominated in finals before. So, yeah, it's going to be hard to get him. Hopefully we do. I'm pretty keen on him. I don't know. Is Paul keen on him? I think he was. He's referring to him as Bailey Sniff. But read into that what you will. But I'd like to see him anyway. Paul, if you're watching this, let me know in the comments what you think. The other big news of the week, Joel Smith, as I reported off the top, has failed a drugs test, the AFL drugs test, after the round 23 game against the Hawks on the Sunday night. I think it was an in-season game. I think he played the following week, round 24 as well, just on the eve of finals, really. What are you doing? Apparently, the AFL only found out about it last week or thereabouts. So therefore, nothing was said. Conveniently, as soon as the trade period ends, the news breaks. So the AFL loves a 365-day-a-year news cycle. Fair enough. They do that really well. But curious that only just found out about it a week ago. I'm pretty sure they knew a little bit earlier than that. But he's a 21-year-old bloke, played 42 games of footy at the elite level. Could be looking at a hefty suspension of 4 years in the worst-case scenario. It's been reported that the best-case scenario for him is a slap on the wrist with a wet lettuce leaf, maybe getting a month or something like that. Now, what's a little unclear as to when this suspension may start. He's provisionally suspended effectively immediately, but a final decision on what the suspension looks like in terms of its length hasn't been determined yet. There's still an investigation ongoing. But will that be served during the off-season when he's away on holidays anyway? Will that start from round 1? Will that start from when officially the clubs are back or the club, Melbourne Football Club, is back and starting pre-season training? I don't know. Is it a suspension of games? So that stuff's yet to be determined, but I imagine we'll hear more about that a little more. But look, it points to a bigger issue at Melbourne, really. It's been reported a lot in the various media news outlets lately that Melbourne may have a bit of a culture problem. If you speak to Max Gawn and others, Simon Goodwin, they don't. I think they might be living in a Melbourne Football Club bubble at the moment and don't really understand what it's like at other footy clubs. So it may be a good idea to get some outside people into that club to maybe steer them in the right direction. Things are sort of going a bit off. Whether those rumours about Simon Goodwin a few years ago are true or not, they're persisting as well. They've got their off-field stuff with some legal issues going on with a former president or whatever he was, Glenn Bartlett, I think it was. And then you've got your Clayton Oliver stuff as well, which is just going on and on with him, potentially being traded, and then we're hearing about his hospitalisation, and won't go into it more than that. But apparently, and I don't know if this is confirmed either, but I heard that Joel Smith was also with him when he became unconscious and had to be hospitalised. So joining the dots a little bit there, possibly, but who knows? I think only probably the players in Melbourne, maybe the AFL and the doctors would probably know what's really going on there. But it's an issue, and I haven't even touched on the Stephen May and Jake Melsham stuff from a few years ago as well, the punch on in that restaurant. So, Melbourne, you've got a culture problem. Maybe you've got a very competitive culture, but you don't have a culture of doing all the right things off the field. So might want to look at that. I think they will. I think the writing's on the wall now. I think it's become pretty clear to them that they can say all the things they want, but at the end of the day, they've got some issues there and they need to address it. Now, the other major story of the week, again, this is a Geelong show, but every now and then we like to pot Hawthorn. No, we don't. Well, yeah, we do. But it's not really so much about Hawthorn, probably more about Alex de Clarkson, who's no longer with the Hawks, and Chris Fagan. It looks like the Hawthorn Footy Club could be considering a payout in excess of $1 million to the two of them or anyone involved due to the historic racism stuff that was going on a while back, which is, I think the Hawks and probably Fagan and whatnot want it to go to bed. Well, I think Clarkson and Fagan want a public apology. That's what they're saying from the Hawks. Jeff Kennett wants none of that. He wants absolutely none of it. He said he's not going to be shamed into apologising for anything that he doesn't agree with. So that ain't happening. But yeah, the Hawks have got to deal with some stuff there. It's not great. I still feel for the players, the Indigenous players that were involved at the time. I feel like that has been sort of swept under the rug a little bit, what they're going through, and it's all about Paul Clarkson, Paul Fagan. Maybe they didn't have enough to prove a case, but, where there's smoke, there's fire sometimes. So I'll leave it there. But, yeah, I just don't feel like the Hawks. I think the Hawks have got a lot of cleaning up to do. Don't you love it when other clubs just are tearing themselves apart, falling down? And Geelong, well, we didn't make the finals, but, other than that, we're doing pretty well off the field, so not too bad. But let's bring things back to the Catters again. Let's bring it back to some Geelong news and some really nice news that we saw on the socials in the last few days. The Kolodashnis, or at least Jake Kolodashny and his partner Amelia, have announced they're expecting a baby. I think they're about halfway into the pregnancy there. So that'll be nice for them. A baby probably around the start of the season, actually. So don't expect to see Kolodashny round one if the baby comes just before the game starts. Who knows where that game's going to be played. So congrats to those two. A bit of a farewell, a sad farewell for me. I really like this guy. Matty Egan, one of our assistant coaches, has departed the Catters for the Western Bulldogs. Effectively, I think he's just left last week or something like that. So that's a bit of a shame. He's one of it's another coach that we've lost. Harry Taylor, Eddie Betts, now Matty Egan, all those coaches from that 2022 Premiership team. We have to replace them. Who knows who we're bringing in, though? Clearly we've got Stephen King come in, but we need to get a few others as well now. It sounds like they're all leaving. So that's a bit of a worry. He's a great player for us back in 2007. Wasn't in that 2007 Premiership side, but as an All-Australian that year, and he's probably one player that gets forgotten about the most from that era. Unfortunately, did his foot and never played another game again in I think it was round 21 or something like that against Brisbane, end of the season, just on the eve of the finals, and couldn't get back. Or tried to get back and probably did more damage. I don't know the full story there, but that's a bit of a shame. Congrats to Megan McDonald and Julia Crockett-Grills from our AFLW women's team. Played their 50th game in the hoops. Unfortunately, the girls didn't get the job done. If you want to check that match review video out, Paul did that video for me on the Sunday night just gone. So check that one out. I'll try and remember to leave a comment, a link in the notes as well if you want to have a look at that one. So that's a bit of a shame. And just lastly, not so much news, but just a thought. The Cats men's team going into the end of 2024, we're looking like we're going to have 12 of our players eligible for free agency. So I hope it's not a mass exodus. On paper, it looks terrible. There's a potential there for half our team to leave. Let's hope that doesn't happen, though. But I think some of them will retire. Maybe one or two will take the opportunity to extend their career somewhere else for a year or two. You hate seeing it. I hated it with Chapman and Stevie J and all those guys, James Kelly, Matty Stokes, Josh Hunt, all of those guys when they left. I thought, no, you got to make money. I suppose you got families to look after, and you got to think about your future. But it's hard watching them, seeing them run around in another Guernsey. So that's a bit of a shame. And Jai Chelcraft, our VFL two-time best and fairest player, didn't ever get a crack picked up on the Geelong list, which is a bit of a shame. I was hoping he would, but he's moved on from the VFL side. He's taking his footy career elsewhere to WA, I think. So all the best to Jai Chelcraft. Had a chat with him at the Cargie a few years back. He seems like a nice bloke. So I hope for him all the best for the rest of his footy career, and hopefully he gets picked up. He might even get picked up with one of the WA sides. Who knows? We'll see how things go. Just closing out the show, some other AFL news. There's been reported, and it's looking likely actually, that the AFL might do their round one opening round in New South Wales and Queensland. So they're looking at possibly 4 games across the 2 states, two in New South Wales, 2 in Queensland. It'll be it's been floated that it'll be GWS versus Collingwood, and just wait for all the Collingwood people to start sooking it up that they can't get a ticket, and it should be played at the MCG so they can unfurl the flag. And Sydney and Melbourne, so that'll be the Brody Grundy, match against his old mob Collingwood, against his old mob Melbourne, who didn't want him in the end. Then it'll be Brisbane versus Carlton, they're saying, which will be a preliminary final rematch from last year, and then Gold Coast versus Richmond, which will be, Damien Hardwick versus his old mob as well. And the remaining teams will play the following week. They're saying it'll be a 9-game fixture, so those 8 sides that played on that opening round will still play the following week as well, and then I think they'll just get an early season bye somewhere in the mix as well. It's a perfect opportunity for the AFL. The NRL has really, really dropped the ball. They're having a bit of a junket in Las Vegas, and they're not even going to be in the states, in those 2 states in round one. So the AFL's like, we're gonna come and rob your house, and that's what it looks like it's going to happen, unless the NRL goes, hang on, we might have made a mistake here. We better fix this one. So that'll be interesting if that happens. And the last time the AFL did something like this split round thing was back in 2014. So it has been a little while since we've gone down this path. But I like it. I'm very, very keen on seeing something like this happen. I think it'd be good for the New South Wales teams, especially, probably Gold Coast as well. But to have some the hottest ticket in town kind of stuff. Yeah, there's fans that miss out, but goodness me, get some eyeballs and get some conversations and some newspaper articles and stuff like that happening. So I think it's a great thing for the game. I think 4 games, 4 games in round one is probably enough to whet the appetite a little bit, and then we get crack and bring a few games back to Melbourne and get the MCG pumping with Richmond Carlton to kick it off on a Thursday night. But yeah, I think it's a great idea. Hopefully it happens. I haven't heard that clubs are against it, so we'll see what happens over the next few months. I think hopefully the AFL keeps the media wheel turning. I'm sure they will, and we'll hear some more as we go along. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. If you're still with me, thank you very much. If you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed, please do. So please think about doing so. But hit that like button as well. That always helps the algorithm with YouTube as well. We're slowly building towards 1,000 subscribers on the channel. We want to try and get there before the season starts if we can. Anyway, that's it from me, guys. Go Cats, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.